take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes and non-toking lovers of liberty. It is Wednesday, January 21st, 2015, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thank you for being here on this Hemp Day Hump Day. That's right, every 2 weeks, in the middle of the week, we break it down in the world of industrial hemp, and today we've got a very special Hemp Day Hump Day presentation for you. First of all, joining us at half past the hour for his regular bi-weekly segment, we've got Doug Fine, the organic cowboy, author of Too High to Fail and Hemp Bound. He'll be joining us for the Hemp Day Hump Day update. And he says he's got 3 updates for us on what's happening in the world of industrial hemp. Also, stay tuned in Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. He'll stay with us in the first 15 minutes of Hour 2 and take your live hemp questions at 971-533-7111, or you can join our chat room through Ustream and get your questions in that way. You can't find many more people on the planet with the knowledge of industrial hemp as Doug Fine. So join us at 4 o'clock Pacific time for those live question and answer period. All right. Also on today's Hemp Day Hump Day, this last Saturday, I got a chance to attend a demonstration from hemp-technologies.com. I encourage you to check them out, hemp-technologies. And Andrea Herman, who is one of the leading experts on industrial hemp. She's consulting with governments and companies. And Joy Beckerman-Marr, a friend of mine from the Normal Women of Washington, who's also a Pacific Northwest hemp consultant. They put on this demonstration for Hempcrete, and we've talked about Hempcrete on the show, this amazing building material that's carbon negative and recyclable, and there's so many details about it. We're going to talk about it all day today, but at the end of the show, I've got a special video from the presentation. You'll get to see how to make Hempcrete. That's right. And you'll see me actually making some Hempcrete. I have my Hempcrete brick right here. And it's got some orange dye in it, and a pretty nice sized brick. You can see this about, I don't know, a foot or so by 2-3 inches thick. And still has some dampness to it. It's takes, months and months before it finally turns back into rock, but it's pretty amazing stuff. We'll tell you all about that, and you'll get to see that demonstration video coming up at the end of the show. Also on the show today, we've got a Behind the Headlines segment where the Washington Post took a look at the spectrum of marijuana legalization. It's not just legalize it or prohibit it. There is a whole range of options available. We'll compare and contrast many different countries and states' approaches to marijuana legalization and give you an idea how that spectrum lays out. We'll also take a look in drug war data mining at a new poll out, a survey from the University of Oklahoma, or was it Oklahoma State? I think it's Oklahoma State, where they found more people would vote to ban trans fats and would vote to ban raw milk than would vote to ban marijuana sales. It's pretty amazing. We'll take a look at that. Plus, we've got a Hempcrete video in drug war data mining that'll give you an idea how this amazing building material works. But we start everything off with the 420 radio news. In the headlines today, a Republican and a Democrat in the Washington State Senate are looking to merge medical and recreational pot systems. Wyoming may be voting on marijuana decriminalization in their House of Representatives. An Oregon bank is opening up services to the marijuana industries nationwide. Virginia has 3 bills for medical marijuana. We've got Colorado voting to scrap plans to completely rewrite the medical marijuana rules. And speaking of industrial hemp, in the state of Florida, a bill has been filed for industrial hemp. Things are changing all over, and we're here to cover them for you on the Russ Belville Show. We're back right after these promotional messages.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
420 Radio, the activist radio station. This is Radical Russ encouraging you to take a look at the Weed Blog every day. Johnny Green and the staff at the Weed Blog are on top of all the latest developments in the fight to end marijuana prohibition nationwide. You can even get the Weed Blog on your smartphone by installing the Weed Blog app for iPhone and Android. If it's about weed, it's on the Weed Blog, including my original writing. So don't delay. Read the Weed Blog today.
Fun.
What's happening, cool cats? This is Big Daddy, and I want you to cruise on over to the Funky Roller Rink. We'll be grooving all night long. Doors open at 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific, every Thursday night, right here on RadicalRuss.com.
Funky-licious.
Sir, do you think there will or should come a time for us to discuss the possibility of legalization, regulation, and control of all drugs, thereby doing away with the violent criminal market as well as a major source of funding for international terrorism? Thank you so much for your time, Mr. President.
Well, I think this is an entirely legitimate topic for debate.
Name the time and place, Mr. President. Radical Russ has been prepping for this debate full-time since 2005. The Russ Belville Show.
It's time for the 420 Radio News, covering the latest headlines in consumer cannabis, medical marijuana, and industrial hemp. Transcripts of 420 Radio News are available daily on our website at 420radio.org. Now, here's Russ Belville with your marijuana headlines in 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
This is your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, January 21st, 2015. Two influential state senators expressed optimism Tuesday about merging Washington state's medical marijuana and recreational pot systems. Senator Ann Rivers, a Republican from the center, wrote a bill that would forbid medical marijuana dispensaries from selling dried marijuana. It would allow edibles and concentrates for patients. Senator Jean Cole Wells, a Democrat of Seattle, has proposed a bill that would create a single license for recreational shops, which then could get state designations to handle medical marijuana as well. Medical marijuana shops would be phased out, and the number of recreational shop licenses would dramatically increase to a yet-to-be-determined figure. Both bills would create a registry-style list of medical marijuana patients and providers. Under Cole Wells' plan, card-carrying medical marijuana patients would become exempt from the 25% state sales tax on pot. Both bills would phase out collective gardens, which currently produce pot for medical use. With Cole Wells' proposal, any adult 21 or older could grow up to 6 pot plants in his or her own home. Patients with appropriate medical waivers would be allowed to grow more. The Wyoming State House of Representatives Judiciary Committee voted 7-2 Tuesday to advance a bill that would decriminalize the possession of less than an ounce of marijuana. House Bill 29 will now advance to the full House for its consideration. Under the bill, someone carrying up to an ounce of marijuana would face a maximum fine of $500 for their first or second offense, and someone with up to half an ounce would face a maximum fine of $250 for their first or second offense. The state's current law sets a misdemeanor penalty of up to a year in jail and a $1,000 fine for possessing any amount that is less than 3 ounces. An Oregon bank is opening services to the marijuana industry in Colorado at a time when banks here are lurking mostly in the shadows. Bank, based outside Portland, is part of the growing number of financial institutions, mostly Washington-based credit unions, that are banking openly with marijuana businesses. The bank said it is also taking marijuana-related deposits in Washington, the other state where recreational pot is legal, and has been serving Oregon-based medical marijuana dispensaries since September. Bank won't have a physical office or employees in Colorado. Cash deposits are to be picked up by a contracted armored car service and brought to a Federal Reserve System bank, such as the one located in downtown Denver. Deposits are then credited to Bank's account and further credited to the account of the marijuana business. Push by parents of children with epilepsy to obtain medical marijuana in Virginia has resulted in 3 new bills in the General Assembly. Senator David W. Marsden wrote a bill which specifically legalizes both cannabidiol oil, known as CBD, and THCA oil with a doctor's recommendation. Medical marijuana has actually been legal in Virginia since 1979, except that it requires a valid prescription, and doctors cannot legally prescribe marijuana while it is federally restricted. But prosecutors do have a concern around the word recommendation as opposed to prescription, because it is not legally defined and regulated. Delegate David Albo's bill inserts the word epilepsy into the conditions for which medical marijuana may be recommended. The current law allows it only for cancer or glaucoma. Delegate Kenneth Plum's bill instead deletes cancer and glaucoma and would make medical marijuana available without specifying a condition, though it would still require a doctor's recommendation. A panel of state senators voted Tuesday to scrap most of Governor Hickenlooper's plans to change Colorado's rules regulating how medical marijuana is grown and sold. Governor Hickenlooper's administration wants to crack down on caregivers by requiring them to tell health authorities where they grow the pot, which only about 5% of Colorado's around 3,000 caregivers currently do. In Colorado, recreational marijuana must be tested for potency and contaminants before it is sold, but tests are optional in the medical market. The administration suggested making testing mandatory for medical pot. Patients agreed, but they complained that private citizens should be able to have their pot tested if they wish. Testing companies testified that the regulations prohibit them from accepting homegrown pot, leaving patients reliant on pricier marijuana from dispensaries. Florida State Representative Michelle Relwinkle-Vasalinda has introduced the Hemp Industry Development Act. The bill would allow cultivation of low-THC hemp to promote economic development and job growth in the state of Florida. Growers would be required to register with the state and submit a statement that the seeds contain low levels of THC. This has been your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, January 21st, 2015. I'm Russ Belville.
420 Radio, the home of marijuana experts.
The Green Cross has been an amazing source of cannabis medicines for my pain management. Whether I need edibles or tinctures or topicals, I'm able to combine the 2 or 3 to give me really successful pain control.
It's the delivery service that Green Cross provides is just incredible. You get your medicine and it's delivered by a person that you trust.
Whether we come to you or you come to us, the Green Cross delivers.
NORMAL stands for Responsible Adult Cannabis Use. If cannabis use is causing problems in your life, consider taking a break or seeking medical assistance. Consider ceasing cannabis use if you have a family history of mental illness. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery while impaired by cannabis use. Cannabis use is not without risks, even though the risks may be far less than those posed by legal drugs.
The International Cannabis Business Conference is coming to the Hyatt Regency Hotel in San Francisco, California, February 15th and 16th, 2015. Don't miss this exclusive opportunity to hear from the experts on the future of marijuana commerce, including scientists like Dr. Carl Hart, Dr. Amanda Ryman, and Dr. Stanton Peel, policy experts like Ethan Nadelman from Drug Policy Alliance, Anthony Johnson from Oregon's Legalization Campaign, travel author Rick Steves from Washington's Legalization Campaign, and California legalization pioneer Dale Sky Jones. Business experts like Harborside's Steve D'Angelo, ArcView Group's Troy Dayton, and UFCW union leader Dan Rush. Cannabis journalists like Ricardo Baca, Steve Bloom, and Doug Fine, and California Republican Congressman Dana Rohrabacher, plus many, many more. Tickets are on sale now at internationalcbc.com, but hurry, last year's conference in Portland, Oregon was a sellout. International Cannabis Business Conference, San Francisco, California, February 15th and 16th, internationalcbc.com.
Welcome back, everyone. 14 after the hour, and time to go behind the headlines, where the Washington Post is looking at a report out of the Rand Corporation that was released Friday, and this was commissioned by the state of Vermont to explore marijuana and regulation and all the options that would be available in Vermont. I want to thank also MediGrow Vermont, Fran Janik, for emailing me a copy of that report. It was very, very interesting reading. And what's most interesting about this is the fact that it explores a spectrum of possible marijuana legalization options. They supplied a really nice graph of the 12 options available for marijuana regulations, from the most extreme on one end, keep prohibition and make it tougher, right? Increase the sanctions. To the other extreme, complete repeal of all marijuana prohibitions without any regulation, the treat it like tomatoes model. Then, closest to the edges of the extremes would be what we are currently seeing, prohibition with a decrease of sanctions. This might be decriminalization efforts or defelonization efforts like we saw in California. And on the other end, the standard commercial model, what we are seeing in Colorado and Washington and soon to see in Alaska and Oregon. But the report comes up with 8 other options for how marijuana could be legalized. And let's take a look at these from the most restrictive to the least restrictive, left to right on that chart. One option would be what's called the grow your own model. And in the grow your own model, the closest we could compare this to is Washington, D.C., where adults are allowed to possess marijuana. They're allowed to grow it, but that's it. They can't trade it. They can't sell it. There's going to be no shops, no big commercial grows. Now, this has been going on in Alaska since 1975 with their privacy rights. And what we know from that experience is that it doesn't really do anything about the black market. Has nothing to do with ending the black market and nothing to do with gaining any tax revenue for the states that would pursue it. The next option that they had on the list is what's known as the co-op model or buyer's club model. And the buyer's club model would be closest to what we see currently in Spain, where there are clubs that you join that communally grow marijuana, and the members of that club can then buy and trade the marijuana that they grow there. And again, they still compete with the black market, but at least they do keep the marijuana flowing, so fewer people have to go to the black market. Another option would be the Netherlands model, locally controlled sales. This is where only retail is allowed. There's no major commercial grows that are legal. The Netherlands kind of winks and nudges at them, and they maintain that the coffee shops can only have a half a kilogram of marijuana on site at any time. This has been reported on for 3 decades now and shown that it's reduced the number of hard drug addicts and the problems that they have with people using marijuana, but does lead to a problem of drug tourism as people from more prohibitive countries visit Amsterdam and Maastricht and these other cities to get their marijuana. Another option that's available is have the government manage the supply of pot. This would be like the state-run liquor store model of marijuana. The state would grow the pot, the state would distribute the pot, the state would sell the pot. And a similar idea of this would be Uruguay and their idea of setting up a government model. The biggest problem with this, though, is that the government, this sort of model puts the state in direct conflict with federal law. And the feds would be quick to shut that kind of stuff down. So it's unlikely we would see the adoption of this kind of model. Another possible model is a public authority, kind of have like a public cannabis growing authority that's run by the government, kind of connected to the government, but doesn't put the government in the position of actually breaking the Controlled Substances Act. That would allow tighter government control, but basically what we'd be talking about there is setting up a government monopoly. Similar to a government monopoly would be the 6th of the 8 choices, allowing only nonprofit operators to sell and distribute the drug. But this is a situation where we might have trouble raising money. The banks might have difficulties working with them, and it might be ripe for abuse of people abusing the nonprofit statutes. Another option here is for profits to sell marijuana, for benefit corporations, and only having a few of them. This might be a system like what you'd find being proposed in Ohio, and that goes to the 8th option here as well, allowing for-profits to sell marijuana, but under a closely monitored licensing system. This would create a structured oligopoly. There'd only be a few private producers. You might call it a cartel, and that's similar to what they're proposing in the state of Ohio. Again, the commercial model is what we already see in Colorado and Washington. And then the most extreme, the complete repeal of prohibitionary laws without replacing them with any sort of regulations, actually does have a historical precedent. That's the way New York State, during alcohol prohibition, managed to end its alcohol prohibition. It just repealed all state laws on alcohol and said, all right, feds, if you want to do this, you want to keep it prohibited, you've got to spend the time and money to do it. Washington State took a similar tack, so it's not completely heard of in our history.
Hey, bud, let's party.
That sounds like a plan, Mr. Spicoli. It's 420 in Denver, Colorado, where the city has decided not to let the 420 celebration extend to 3 days like the Cannabis Cup has. So Civic Park will be filled on the 18th and 19th, Saturday and Sunday, but for 420, you're going to have to join us at the High Times Cannabis Cup. It's going to be a good one, and I might be a sativa judge.
420 Radio, fighting prohibition since 2012.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson. Alcohol prohibition didn't work in the 1920s, and marijuana prohibition isn't working today. It's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
Connect with 420radio.org through social media, on Twitter at 420radio.org, and our Facebook page at 420radio.org. Follow us and like us today. You'll be glad you did. Get.Buzz. .Buzz is the internet platform that fuels community interest, excitement, and new experiences. .Buzz is the premier online destination for internet users seeking the latest news on a variety of topics. .Buzz appeals to groups active in blogging, communications, journalism, advertising, and marketing. .Buzz offers registrants a stronger alternative to the shrinking namespace of existing top-level domain names, such as .com, .net, and .org. Get your name now at get.buzz. Arguing for the end of adult marijuana prohibition is easy because we have facts, science, reason, compassion, evidence, truth, and logic on our side. It is even easier when researchers catalog it all for us. Learn how to gather the facts on marijuana use, arrests, seizures, rehabs, drug tests, and more in this edition of Drug War Data Mining.
All right, welcome back, everyone. 22 and a half after the hour, and in today's Drug War Data Mining, a quick look at a report that has come out from the, Oklahoma State University Department of Agricultural Economics. It's a report entitled The Foods Demand Survey, and it's dated from January 16th, 2015. Interesting survey, mostly on people's willingness to pay money and how much food expenditure they've had for typical grocery items, steak, chicken, hamburger, pork chops, those kind of things. Their willingness to pay, weekly income, consumer expectations, food issues, and so forth. But buried in this report on page 4 are something that they call ad hoc questions. 3 just kind of other types of questions they wanted to ask folks. And this one is very interesting. The first question asks, do you support or oppose the following government policies? And they list a whole bunch of these. And let me put these on the screen for you because it's quite interesting what got approved of here. In this Oklahoma State University report, they asked people whether or not they would support a mandatory country of origin label for meat. That got 86%. Should there be a requirement that school lunches contain 2 servings of fruit and vegetables? 84% support that. Should there be mandatory labels on foods produced with genetic engineering? 82% support. Mandatory labels on foods containing DNA? 80%. Mandatory calorie labels on restaurant menus? 69%. Mandatory calorie limits for school lunches? 64%. So some interesting data there on people's attitudes towards some sorts of food issues, labeling and so forth. But where it gets interesting to those of us in marijuana reform is on the questions regarding marijuana, raw unpasteurized milk, and food products made with trans fats. These were 3 questions, 3 classes of items that the Oklahoma State University researchers asked about as to whether or not Americans would support a ban on those items. Now, when it came to a ban on the sale of marijuana, 46.55% support a ban on marijuana sales, folks. This isn't a question that's asking just whether or not marijuana ought to be legal or whether or not we shouldn't lock people up for using marijuana. This is 53% of Americans saying there shouldn't be a ban on the sale of marijuana. That's remarkable. Now, for those other items that we're talking about, should there be a ban on the sale of foods made with trans fats? 55% supported that. 55.6%. Almost 10% greater support for banning trans fats than banning marijuana sales. And when it came to raw unpasteurized milk, 59% support a ban on raw unpasteurized milk. That's right. More people would ban raw milk and trans fats in America than the sales of marijuana. And if that doesn't show how far we've come in public perception, where people now find marijuana is safer than alcohol, tobacco, and even sugar, I don't know what else does. Now, stay tuned. We've got this great video. This comes to you courtesy of Hempcrete, which we'll talk about next.
Hi, we created a little animation. This will demonstrate the use of Hempcrete in the floor, wall and ceiling cavities. A formwork is installed. The Hempcrete is placed, and after drying, the floor can be laid. The frame that carries the roof loads is fitted with services such as phone, power and water. To create the wall, we use recycled plastic formwork that easily assembles. The hempwood, lime, binder and water are mixed and placed into the formwork surrounding the load-bearing frame. With good organisation and the right equipment, the installation of Hempcrete is fast and economical. Formwork can be removed in hours. The Hempcrete will set within a few days. Like the floor, the lightweight ceiling insulation will be installed. Here we show magnesium board as a formwork. Roof cladding is installed as usual. The Hempcrete walls need to be dry prior to application of renders. This takes approximately 2 months. The exterior wall surface will be rendered with a lime render. The interior can be left as a natural finish. Lime washes or lime and clay renders. Hempcrete regulates humidity. This is why only breathable finishes can be used. Once the rendering is completed, the electrics and plumbing can be finished. The house is now ready to be enjoyed!
.420 Radio, your ticket to the Boston Freedom Rally. Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Very effective. Check out LushLEDlighting.com right now.
Despite strong public support for medical cannabis, decriminalization, and legalization in Georgia, the state spends $121 million every year to arrest, prosecute, and imprison Georgians for simple possession. Each year, the state of Georgia spends less on driver services, agriculture, and forestry combined. What else can $121 million a year do in Georgia? With that much money, the state could hire and keep 3,000 more teachers, improve roads and bridges, provide tax relief for small businesses, repair aging sewage systems, or lower taxes. But right now, that's millions of dollars of your tax money wasted on failed enforcement. Tell your representative you're tired of wasteful spending and ask them to end cannabis prohibition. Join the conversation at www.peachtreenormal.org. Peachtree Normal is a proud affiliate of NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, treat law enforcement with respect and stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all of my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak with my attorney." Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at omarfigueroa.com. Marijuana legalization also ushers in the return of the American hemp industry. Get the latest news from the author of Hempbound and Too High to Fail, Doug Fine, in our Hemp Day Hump Day update.
Welcome back, everyone. 31 after the hour, and today we've got quite a Hemp Day Hump Day for you. Joining us on the telephone from his goat ranch in New Mexico, Doug Fine's on the line. How you doing, Doug?
Hey, good to be with you, Russ, in sight of the goats themselves at this moment.
Oh, that's fantastic. Good to hear it. We got to move fast on this one, but folks, Doug will be joining us at the top of the next hour for a 15-minute segment. We'll take your live questions at 971-533-7111. But hold on those questions for just a bit, because Doug's got so much to inform us about, all sorts of things going on in the world of hemp. Take it away, Doug. What's up next?
This is like I'm going to do my Russ Belville invitation here on the top of the hour news here, because there's a lot of hemp news, and I know we got to get it through in 10 minutes so you can show some real great stuff about hemp building workshop you're a part of, run by some friends of mine in the hemp world. So take it away. First of all, since we last spoke on Hemp Day Hump Day 2 weeks ago, the full commercial legalization of industrial hemp has been reintroduced into the U.S. Congress, and not just reintroduced. Listen to who the co-sponsors are. Both of Oregon's senators, Ron Wyden and Jeff Merkley, and both of Kentucky's senators, Rand Paul and Mitch McConnell. So it is looking good for full federal legalization of hemp this year.
Oh, man.
In Oregon. Should we take them one at a time? Anything
yeah.
I just
wanted to comment that, of course, Mitch McConnell now is the majority leader in the Senate. So, the chances of this getting through both bodies and getting signed seems pretty good.
Yep, I'm very optimistic. He runs the show there. It's amazing how little it takes for me to have sympathy for the type of legislator that I might not support on some other issues over the years. But Mitch is a hempster. There's no denying it.
All right. Looking forward to that.
In state news, Oregon, it was in the top of the headlines this week, not just because of its great federal delegation, but the Oregon Department of Agriculture held hearings at which I testified on the regulations that are, they say, going to be issued on February 2nd. So Oregon farmers that are interested in that, keep your eyes open, because February 2nd is when you can start applying to be a federally and state legal farmer in Oregon. And I hope to be part of one of those applications. I hope to be a farmer in Oregon this year.
Yeah, and there's a bill at the Oregon legislature as well that would remove the requirement of getting state permission to grow hemp. You could just plant seeds. Any news on that one?
Well, so we're in a very interesting time here right now, in that federal law, of course, is the law of the land, and we have full federal legalization coming. But what we had last February 7th in Section 7606 of the Federal Farm Bill was allowing state-approved hemp cultivation in states that have their own hemp legislation for what's called research purposes. that can mean just about anything. Kentucky is allowing, for instance, sales and market research, and I believe Oregon and other states will as well. I know in my own New Mexico that's the way that we hope that the state will interpret it should we pass our hemp legislation here. So if Oregonians want to be in sync with federal law, they do have to go through this little song and dance, hopefully just for one more year, getting DEA stamps that the Department of Agriculture will help them achieve once they're approved by the state program. So that's where it's at now. One fix that the Oregon legislature intends to make, I don't know if this is what you were referring to, Russ, is there's a mistake in Oregon's hemp legislation, an unintentional, let us hope, unintentional omission of the number one application that's a $1 billion industry in Canada this year, and that is the industry coming from the nutritive seed oil and related byproducts from hemp. That's excluded under Oregon's law. So the fix that has to happen in the Oregon legislature this session is making sure that's allowed. And I testified to that degree, to that argument, and that is actually testimony with Tate is up on YouTube if folks look for it. But I think it will be. From speaking to the state legislature, they're working on it, and hopefully they will fix that. Glaring oversight.
Absolutely, and and also in Washington State, apparently they're moving forward on hemp, and people think you legalized marijuana must have legal hemp. That's not the case, right?
That's right. It was also just in the state. They had plenty of support for their hemp legislation last year, but they're one of the states like Oregon that has very short sessions, and things just don't all get done. And the legislation didn't get done last year, and thank God it got done this year. My native state, of New York, governor has signed hemp legislation since we last spoke. That's big news. I never thought it would happen. I mean, this is a place where, for psychoactive cannabis, in some places there's still racial profiling. They're still tearing away people of any race from their kids for one joint. Draconian last century drug mentality in some ways, and yet moving forward, thank God, on hemp. So we're winning this battle everywhere.
Yeah, and folks, when you hear about when Doug mentions these states and the federal farm bill that are allowing hemp for research purposes, Andrea Herman made a great point about that. I think, and Joy did as well, Joy Beckerman-Marr, when they said, this research purposes is really a big deal because people have this idea that hemp is just one thing and it grows everywhere and you don't have to water it and it doesn't need pesticides and it'll grow anytime, anywhere, for any place and for any purpose. And that's just simply not true. There's a lot of different cultivars of hemp, and we still need to study how it's going to grow in specific climates and specific soils. And we want to make sure that we've got that down well, because the worst thing that could happen is we legalize hemp, we plant a bunch of it, it doesn't do very well, and then all the naysayers can say, yeah, see, we told you it was all a bunch of smoke and mirrors. You guys were just, pulling our chain on hemp and it didn't work out. So is that how you feel on this idea of hemp research, that it's our chance to get it right?
Well, I should say that that's very wise. You mentioned Andrea Herman. I know you're going to be showing some stuff from her building workshop, and she is one of the major sources in Hempbound, and now a good friend, and definitely I'm not going to question Andrea's knowledge on hemp. She's been working at it for 20 years just because she was angry about hemp being illegal, and so she and I are partners on a million different things. So I'm not going to contradict an Andrea Herman point. I'll only say that an argument that you do hear is that there's been tons of research in many, many climates, and we can trust American farmers. They built the world-leading hemp industry once. They'll build it up again. But I think it is true that research needs to be done, but that's about putting the cultivars in the ground. And so when it comes to Oregon, one of the things that I'm trying to do on behalf of farmers is really make the argument that there should be individual farmers who are approved for this program should get Oregon Department of Agriculture assistance in getting those federal stamps of approval to import seeds, not just a couple of cultivars, but any legitimate approved cultivar. The individual farmers should be able to import. So to give you one example, there's a very popular Canadian cultivar called Finola, and it's terrific. I know the guy who developed it, a fabulous fellow named Jace Calloway, and it's a great seed cultivar. There's some arguments being made in grown the way. It could also be a good fiber cultivar, which, again, one of the major points in Hempbound is tri-cropping, growing for one crop for seed, fiber, and energy. But what if you're a farmer who has a specific, let's say, textile fiber application in mind, and you don't want to grow Finola, but you heard that there's this great cultivar out of France, out of Hungary, out of Italy, out of Ukraine? you should be able to order that cultivar you want to begin, as you say, that research. And I want to stress once again for farmers who are saying research, like what? Does it have to be just in the college? No, you have to be, according to federal law, you have to be associated with a institution of higher learning or a state ag department, which is what's happening here in Oregon. You can apply to the state ag department, and from there you are good to go. And that research includes sales and marketing research. In other words, you can sell your crop. That's research. And so to me, that's a big, broad, and good way of interpreting a research provision.
All right, fantastic. We're speaking with Doug Fine for our Hemp Day Hump Day. Get your questions ready for hour 2, 4 o'clock, top of the hour. We'll take live questions on industrial hemp, but we got about a minute and a half left here. Any other hemp updates we need?
I would just say to listeners to please be sure, everybody, even if you think psychoactive cannabis is your main thing, which we all know that part of the plant is important and terrific too, but on the hemp side, please call your congressperson and both senators and say you support the Industrial Hemp Farming Act of 2015, and you're going to vote on it, because we got to get this hemp prohibition done with once and for all.
You know, I reported earlier today, too, that there was an industrial hemp bill that just dropped in Florida. It looks like this has taken place all across the United States as more people realize that we're not talking about psychoactive marijuana. We're talking about a building material, industrial material. Real quick, we did have a question from the chat room that maybe you can give us an answer to, is how soon do you think before we have hemp-powered vehicles roaming our streets?
That's a terrific question. In Hempbound, I did take a hemp-powered limo ride, and the limo owned by none other than former Philippine dictator Ferdinand Marcos, and it works. It's a terrific biofuel. The issue is producing a seed cultivar that starts right out producing an oil of the viscosity that makes it easy to produce for biofuels. So I'm all for that. But when it comes to energy, my number one vote for the first hemp energy application is using waste biomass to provide energy at the power plant via gasification. It'll come at the gas pump later. And if you want to be that American farmer that develops that cultivar, as Peter Tosh says, I will advertise it.
All right. Doug Fine, author of Too High to Fail and Hempbound, a couple of great books you need to get your hands on. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you again at the top of the hour.
I look forward to watching this Hempcrete workshop video.
All right. And speaking of that, it's coming up next in the Radical Rant segment, our Hempcrete workshop. You'll see me get my hands dirty making a brick of hempcrete. But first, the anti-drug public service announcement of the day. We're back after this break.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
420 Radio, freeing your mind 24 hours a day. Are you in the market for portable vaporizers now? Get online to vapes.buzz, the quick and easy link to portablevaporizers.now.com. Vapes.buzz has everything you're looking for, including vape pens, herbal vaporizers, e-juice, parts, accessories, and more. Visit vapes.buzz and save 5% instantly, or give them a call at 866-264-2415. Vapes.buzz. Get vaping, baby! In the interest of fair and balanced journalism, the Russ Belville Show presents the anti-drug public service announcement of the day. This has been the anti-drug public service announcement of the day. To cure this sort of reefer madness, listen to the Russ Belville Show every weekday on 420radio.org. Adam Hand of Handmade Apparel produces quality custom designs for t-shirts, hats, and other apparel. Handmade Apparel is the official design shop for 420 Radio among many clients who rely on Adam Hand for everything from short-run custom projects to full-run clothing lines. Visit handmadeapparel.biz to browse the selection of handmade gear or to get a personal quote for your own designs. Handmade Apparel, a proud supporter of 420radio.org.
We must wage what I have called total war against public enemy number one.
I support a change in law to end federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
That marijuana, pot, grass, whatever you want to call it, is probably the most dangerous drug.
Some think there won't be room for them in jail. We'll make room.
I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it and didn't inhale.
And one major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
Entirely legitimate topic for debate.
Radical Rant. Now you get to watch me make a brick of hempcrete. With Joy Beckerman-Marr and Andrea Herman, January 17th, 2015.
Hey everybody, Radical Russ here at the Hempcrete workshop. We're taking a look at the existing model, I guess we could call it.
Where you're putting the shutters up, right, or the form boards. We go right in with lags and use these as spacers. So the lags go into the studs. And, you know, I just kept these in for demonstration purposes only, but these just come out and then you replug the hole up.
If you were setting this on a footing, you would have to build the footing to the size of the...
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And then if you're, this is the thing I was talking about last night, if you're going to hang a mag board or something on the inside, you can use like a 2x6 or, right, and have it go right flush here.
Yeah, you would just build that out.
Right, and then, so say this is your interior side and you want your framing revealed, you'll still get the same insulation properties, right? And then on the outside, like you were saying, you can either board and batten or just use a finish, right? Yeah, that's what I think. So you know, if this, so say this is your footing, and you're going to do standard floor joists, and you're going to have a crawl space. You're going to have to put something underneath it, or you're going to have to use a bat to insulate there. And then out here, if you wanted to do lap siding, you could just stick frame, right? Or fur it out, and you could do the same thing. So, where this is what Stu was talking about too, where if you've got this wall, and you're going to have a windowsill that's huge on both sides, I mean bigger than normal.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to put a 12-inch window in, right? You're going to put a window. It's going to have its attach on the outside like you did. And you'll have to reveal the wood there so that the lip of the window hits
in terms of inset window?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're, so in one direction or the other, say your framing isn't in the, well, in this case, you're going to have a header, you're going to have a sill, you're going to set the window, it's going to be back set. So you need to think, that has to be compensated for.
So there's no veins on the outside of your vinyl.
Well, yeah, or you would have like if it was a brick, you would have a brick sill. Your window would be here. Right. You could have a brick sill.
All right, we've got our Hempcrete kit here. Let's see, we have N lime, whatever type of lime that is. We've got some hemp hurd, ready to go with that. And we got some good old-fashioned H2O and a tamper. And of course, if you're going to do this right, you have to have your safety equipment. You got your vinyl safety gloves, your safety goggles, and of course, your safety mask. We're here with Randy. Flew in all the way from Minnesota just to make a brick. Yeah. That's pretty amazing.
Oh yeah, you have a good camera too.
Oh yeah, we got it going on.
Oh yeah, let's get one right here.
We're definitely doing the.
Oh, you're doing a video. You're doing a video.
Oh yeah, we got to have this on the show. So we're going to begin building our Hempcrete. This is the closest I've ever come to building anything. So we'll see how this turns out.
We want to saturate the herds. We want to add moisture to the herds, and we kind of let the herds take on some water, because if we just went straight in and put the herds in and put the lime in and put the water in and try to start mixing, it's just not, the consistency is going to be weird. You're going to be working a lot harder to get the consistency that you want. So I'm going to start off with half a bag of herds.
And so what he's saying is adding the water now so that the hemp can absorb some of the water.
So you can add a third or a half. I'm just going to add a half. And don't be shy if you guys want to come up with your own way to mix it. I personally like to really get the bucket sideways so I can get kind of a swooshing technique, acting like your hand is a paddle and a mixer. But you want to get all the herd wet, right? So once we know we got all the herd in there and the water's mixed around, then we can add a little bit of our lime. Now we have dye with us, and the dye that we have is the basic colors that are in this wall, the orange, the red, and the black. There isn't a lot of dye, but by show of hands, who wants dye? Pretty much everybody. So what we'll do is we'll go around, and it will either be me or Doug, and before you guys put your lime in your mix, we'll come around and we can just put the dye directly into the bag, and then you'll just kind of move the bag around like this, and that'll mix that dye in there.
Did you see that when he's breathing in right now?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I have one right here.
Okay, cool. I know. It's below, but see how bad?
So you'll want to mix that dye around, and then you can put a little bit of, you'll want to introduce a little bit of your lime. So I'm going to, for the sake of material, I'm just not going to use any dye.
So he's using half his bag. We're doing half at a time here, guys, and that's how you're going to want to mix it. Again, because we're hand mixing. If we were paddle mixing, that wouldn't be necessary. But look at that lime go. I'm going to have to dust everything after.
Better put your mask on, man.
Dust.
You know that it's going into your lungs because it's sweet. So
what's in the body?
Yeah, what's in this?
NHL5, natural hydraulic lime, type N hydrated lime, and there may be another additive of some type. Maybe there's some gypsum or something, but for the most part, it is almost entirely NHL5 and type N lime if there's anything else in it.
Does it have that French name that you said?
What, honey?
That French name?
Yeah.
Batichambre. And that'll be in the PowerPoint that you'll get viewing access to. At the end shows all of those different products that work great, and there's one for body with the website.
And that's what this is.
Yes, Batichambre. That's what we're using today. So notice too, and he's digging, you guys, in the bottom, like as if you were making brownie batter, you would dig right to the corners of that bowl. You would make sure that your flour was mixed in.
The lime is going to want to travel to the bottom in some cases and kind of get caked in the bottom. So yeah, just like you're making pancakes or whatever. I'm going to just go ahead and introduce the rest of the herd and the rest of the water. So you'll immediately get, obviously there's more material, so it's going to be a little bit harder to churn. So you'll really want to get in there and just kind of work it out. For the sake of time, I brought my margin shaw with me.
Because he knew that you would all be waiting on him while he was describing this to you.
And if you want to go to the floor and it's easier for you, there's
Oh, I was wondering about that.
Another thing I just want to quickly tell you is that when you do mix at home, Doug and I make, experiment with batches. We have like a big blue tub we got at the Home Depot and one of these really powerful handheld drills. This one is not as great. This one we like here. This one's cool. And and you're literally like, I get bruises all up and down my leg because it gets really but you handle that, man. You're one with the creep.
So I roughly have a half a bag of lime left. You can introduce it, you can split this into quarters and like there, mix it up. Again, for sake of time, I'm just going to go ahead and introduce the rest. And I have all my water in here, so this is all we literally need for this mix design.
And if for some reason, and it's bizarre, every now and again, who knows why, it may be that Matt goes around and just checks to make sure he will have some extra water with him. And if he looks and determines that you need more water, he will tell you why, and he'll add some more water. So he'll be going around the room with that, both Doug and, see, the lime is actually traveling. If it weren't for the fact that I have huffed in huge amounts of lime, it would...
If it gets in your lungs, like with large
Ask Steve, I don't know. It's costly, but you fucking wear your mask, girl. So if you're gonna be around it a long time, wear your mask.
Yeah, this little bit. So to do a quality control real quick on this mix design, I'm gonna try to make a little snowball with it. And
dry?
It's too dry. So we'll add a little bit of water.
How did you tell that was too dry?
Well, I'm kind of looking for
Thank
that.
you for asking.
I'm looking for that sheen too, and I just don't really see the sheen. It's still kind of matty looking. So this probably.
So he knew from texture and addition to it, it's matty. I'm glad that you asked.
That was roughly it. So we'll just mix this up.
So whatever you do, guys, we just don't want you putting it into your mold until you sort of have the mat approval. Can you imagine if you brought it home, you guys, and it didn't set after all this? We do not want you to have that experience.
They're liars.
Yes, it doesn't work. It's full of crap.
That is.
And I
pretty
see the
much there.
sheen. Oh, does it? And well, he'll show you your own sheen. You guys will learn your own sheen from your
Yeah.
own mix. Not to worry.
So we just want to make sure that it stays together, and it does. If we crush it, it kind of falls apart.
And if it falls on the floor, you would just pick it up and put it back in the bucket.
So, yeah, if you guys want to take a look at this real quick, I'll just kind of bring it around.
So we got some dye now, orange dye. We got to mix that up in the bag right there, so we can get that. We'll get that all mixed up here in just a second. All right, now we've added in the lime. You can definitely smell that stuff.
Oh.
Mix that up. All right, we finished the mixing portion of the program. We have created our Hempcrete ball. Our Hempcrete ball is displaying the requisite amount of sheen, somewhere between Charlie and Martin. So we are now ready to begin pouring it into the form and tamping as required. We've been judged to have the proper level of sheen. Let's start pouring.
Yeah.
Can you go grab an angel outside? More binders are coming.
All right, I think we have completed the process. We have our properly tamped, orange-dyed Hempcrete block. Randy's got the natural color going on here. And a little bit of sweat happening too.
Look at him go, look at him go, Randy.
So there you have it. That's our Hempcrete demonstration. Here's the finished product, ladies and gentlemen. That's my block of orange-dyed Hempcrete. It's not too heavy, obviously. I'm able to hold it here out at arm's length without much effort. Maybe it weighs, I don't know, 5 pounds, 7 pounds, not much to it. But light, airy, still feels cool to the touch. It's still got some humidity and it still has some setting to do. It sets up here in about 24 hours. Of course, you would be pouring this into the wall spaces in between the joists and the joists on the floor, the studs in the walls. It can even be used in the roof for its insulation. Check out hemp-technologies.com to learn more. But that's all the time we got for today. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned next hour. Doug Fine on the phone taking your questions. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.